Previously on Unpacked, we introduced you to Tholang Motsumi and Seoketsi Mooketsi, two fascinating and empowering stories of two very different trans women. Let's continue to unpack. To somebody sitting at home, they might think, oh, it's two transgender people sitting, having this conversation. But your stories are actually so completely different. The fact that you felt, you don't want this name, you don't identify. And, it's just from the way that you speak, we can hear you're quite an activist in your journey. And it's important that you translate certain messaging regarding the community. Now, it's so difficult. And I'm not going to speak for myself. I'm going to try and keep it for the general. I am a reader. I'm interested in content. So I think I'm a bit more advanced than most people in terms of the subject matter. For batho ba leng ko magaeng, or Motswana, how do you explain to nkgono who this concept just does not make sense? Respectfully to them, where the intention is not to hurt, to harm, or to ostracize. It possibly might be fear of, I can't comprehend that uyindoda, umfana, umushimane, you're this. And now, not only may you be choosing a gender that, how? But doesn't it just mean you're gay? Doesn't it mean you're drag? Doesn't it mean, you understand what I'm saying? So how do we go to those basic levels to explain a concept that is so complex and layered?
I mean, I'm still going to take us back to language, Auswaka. I don't know if you remember, because you are an absolute avid reader. This must fall, right? We remember when we took to the streets and we fought for an avid equality, free education for all sexes and identities within the space, right? That was us literally going to the streets to say that can also language and can also bodies that are different in the space be included, because we were constantly demonized from the space, we were constantly segregated from the space. There was a heterosexual feast must fall versus a queer, transgender, non-binary feast must fall, which on its own created so much sanctions around the community, right? So hence, it's important to create a language. I think going to understanding that if the space itself is a safe space for me to engage, for me to educate, for me to share my lived experience with someone, then it's something that I could really engage and allow myself. Because problem is that we want to teach people, but we want to also make teaching become valuable even in violent spaces. I think don't send a trans person to a space that you know that their body is going to be vulnerabilized, is going to be invisibilized, and is further might even encounter physical violation, right? Or transphobic violence, right? Send them to that old parent umurori. O ska solofela sepe. O ska solofela gore a o na le moriri, a o na le manala, a o na le a certain genitalia, a o na le matsele, a gana matsele, go tlo go tla motho. Motho o tlo go tlhalosetsa. And ga go tlhalosetsa o retse. Bula tsebe le matlo. Because problem about rona ke gore matla rona a re deceiver. I always have conversations with my body and I ask Seoketsi, what would happen if the world, as a community, as a population, we do not have eyes? Would we still encounter rape and rape culture? Would we still would we still encounter transphobia, sexism, misogyny? Would we? Because I really don't think we would. But because of how we've been conditioned from a hetero-patriarchal system, now the work for us is extremely hard, because just for me to go to a typical rural Bokone Bophirima and sit a 70-year-old mama, I can't do that, because the space itself has always been so invisibilizing, and because language was never in construction and in favor of me.
Tholang, do you resonate with what she is saying? Gore, and I think I'm getting to understand it a little bit more. The power of language, and it's also, even for me to walk into the conversation, to ask if you don't know if a person identifies as he or she. People are learning these pronouns of what to use. And sometimes even I will hear the pronoun they, and I'll also feel like, isn't that also offensive because they almost sounds like, zabakwale, you don't conform. So it's such a sensitive thing. I don't know, Tholang, what you think about the issue of language, Gore, even in your home language, finding the vocabulary makes it 10 times harder. Now we have this English language and we're still like, the two of you as two transgender individuals can walk into a room and also possibly offend each other. If I'm making sense.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm thinking...
I mean,
I felt like you said you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, now I was just going to say that I think understanding representation, understanding that as our womanhood, as Tholang and as a Seoketsi and as a Relebogile, that our womanhood exists at an intersection. Understanding that my body will not be able to be visible if it does not exist at a class, at a sex, at a gender identity, at an age, at an ethno-minority perspective, right? And understanding that me and Tholang are two different people. And because people have this, this absurd mentality that, all trans people are the same. We are all Janet Mark. We are all living cocks. We are all Caitlyn Jenner.
Wait, what is living cocks? Please explain.
We are talking about black.
Wait, living cocks? I'm so confused. Okay, you said people assume that as transgender individuals they think you're all living cocks. What are the other things you said?
Caitlyn Jenner.
Oh, Caitlyn Jenner. Okay. Yes. So they look at the one story.
Yeah.
As their reference point, and it's like, okay, we understand this one, Latswana.
Yeah, but also like just to allude to what you're saying, also, okay, even like with what's happening right now with me and Tholang, like how there's the expectation of there's a certain kind of looking or passing, because we call it passing privilege. There's a certain kind of passing privilege and pretty privilege that has to have within the trans community, and which I extremely find problematic and extremely like policing and moralistic, because the fact that we don't see womanhood differently and we don't treat it differently, and the fact that you are not able to understand that there's a Tholang and there's a Seoketsi and treat those two individuals differently is extremely something that we really need to look into, because right now we are being compared to the United States trans woman population. And that means that now our narrative is being misrepresented, because not only is the narrative being erased, but now we're being told that as a Black trans African, Southern African Motswana trans woman, I can't exist without really looking a particular way, without applying a certain aesthetic to my transness, right? If I don't wear a long weave, if I don't wear my afro correctly, if I don't wear cheese-top, then I don't pass. I don't have passing privilege.
So can I ask an important question then that some people might be thinking, right? In our discussion with Tholang, she kept saying, I am a woman, right? But at the same time, you still will identify with being trans woman. So how do you respond to the person who says how? If you're a woman, why not just be a woman? Why must you push the trans part? Because you're saying, I'm a woman, but you're also telling me, let's assume I didn't know what you were born as. Now you're telling me you're a trans woman. Is there conflict there in you saying I'm a woman, but I'm also a trans woman? You want to be accepted as a woman? Both of you, because you saying you feel like a woman, you are a woman, yet you're also communicating, but I was born a man.
Yeah.
You know,
My narrative, like my side of the story of saying I'm a trans woman, is my side of the story of telling you the truth. That I might not be the woman that you are. You were naturally born a woman, and I was assigned differently at birth. That's why I'm now a woman. That's just to laid on thick that I was not born a woman.
because I have a privilege as a woman that you don't have.
Yes.
I didn't have to go through hormone treatment. I didn't have to go through confusing
Fact of the
anything.
matter,
The
yes.
gender I was assigned is what I felt, and I fit into the norm of also being attracted to men.
And at me saying I'm a woman, it emphasizes that I'm this person that you see now that has transformed into a woman, and now I'm really a woman. Even though a trans woman, I am a woman.
And what are your thoughts, Seo Power?
I mean, absolutely. I allude with both of you. I absolutely share similar sentiments. I think it speaks to representation. It brings us back to representation as to how the world has always been understanding of womanhood. And because of that, heteronormative language has always created a lot of work and necessary work for us. Because now, I can't just be a trans woman without boobs. I can't just be a trans woman not on hormones, not going for hormonal replacement therapy. I can't just be a trans woman without like going for gender reconstructive surgery. Or I can't just be a trans woman with my athletic body, right? Because there's just so much representation that people think transness and womanhood is a performativity. And understanding that as a woman, as trans woman, and as a woman, some of us, we go through what we call a personal is a political journey. I'm going through what I call personal is political because personally, I identify as a woman. Politically, I identify as a trans woman because that is extremely important for me to recreate and learn and relearn language that is going to be representing of me positively, politically, influentially, for someone that is going to be going through what I'll be going through in the coming 5 years, in the coming 10 years, and maybe really understanding that the work that we did was important and that it was love work and that it reimagined womanhood and it represented variousness and allowed us to maybe to even really like get a glimpse of what real life freedom looks like.
So I want to touch on something you mentioned about pretty privilege. I'm fully aware of this whole thing of, yellow bone, this. But I'm so fascinated by, you mentioned the pretty privilege, and you both are beautiful women. I acknowledge you're beautiful. Are you not then adding to that layer of, and it's not to say don't acknowledge someone's beauty, but are you in any way saying that, okay, maybe if somebody who you didn't think was beautiful was sitting here having the same conversation, then that layer of pretty privilege would be removed, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's easy if a Tholang walks into a room, long hair, beautiful, and everyone's like, you're so beautiful, right? That it's like, oh, you're a woman. So let's say Tholang is at the start of her journey, no long hair, no certain features saying I'm a trans woman. The conversation would be a little bit different to what it is right now. So in some ways, I'm also saying,
absolutely,
is there any way that the LGBTIQ plus community itself is not diluting, but contradicting a messaging that we as people outside the community are also trying to learn? I don't know if I'm making sense with how I'm framing the question. I don't know, what do you think, Tholang, on your side? Because it's that thing of, if, obviously the emphasis is on femininity, and femininity will be linked to beauty in some way. Or, yes.
It's all on how you feel, how you identify yourself. You are who you say you are. To me, it's always been a challenge within the LGBTI. Even the LGBTIs, we are judgmental towards each other. Yeah. We are so we say the baddest things about each other. We think the worst of each other, and there's this thing of labeling. I feel like it should be prohibited. You are not supposed to label a person unless the person comes to you, tells you, Relebogile, I'm this thing that I am, and then when you just have to accept them the way they are. That's just my take.
No, because I get confused. I mean, I've engaged in forums where I know I had a conversation with Sade Gilberti, who was saying to me, the problem is the LGBTIQ plus community says, look at us, give us space, show us, make us represented in media. But the community itself can't even agree on basic things. But at the same time, maybe that's unfair. You can't expect a gay man to have the same agenda and story as a lesbian woman or a bisexual person. Like, we've now grouped everybody into this category that even pedophiles want to be included in, that even incestuals want to be included in. So how do we resolve that part? Because if we outside are struggling, I don't even know how things are going inside.
Imuri.
I mean, ke batla go igagola. Ke batla go ibontsha.
Wa tsa mma o etsa mbadala ha o botsa potso ne? Mma ha o botsa potso eo ha e be relevant. We potolwa, we trapa e qetela you confused. That's why ke re ngwe ngape.
No, because a ke rapakolla. Rapakolla ne. So ha ke pakolla, I'm going to share the way. Yeah, I'm sharing the way because okay, we the trans worry woman radin okay. Now ra tlhaloganya. Now rapakolla gabe. You mentioned pretty privilege. I'm like, how? Now we're mentioning pretty privilege, but you're both beautiful. What would have happened if you were not at this place looking the way? How would this conversation be? You understand what I mean? So rapakolla.
I think understanding that as the queer and trans, let me specifically say as the trans community, understanding that we are a community, we are people, we are different, we have different identities, we have different, ways of thinking, ways of expression, ways of eating, the way heterosexual people have, right? And they all have like differentness amongst themselves. But one thing that we don't realize as a people is that we are so different yet so similar. Because what happens in the queer community is most likely to happen in the heterosexual community. And it's on top of that, it's most likely to start from the heterosexual community. Understanding that everything is a circle, everything is a hierarchy, everything consists or exists at an intersection, right? Like identity, politics is something that derives from heterosexuality. Before there were even like multiple identities or visibility that we see like happening right now in society, it all began there, right? And then there was formation of multiple of identities that was being established throughout history. Democratically speaking, we see that we are a nation that is still healing from a socio-economic political oppression and system that is extremely against Black women, Black trans women, and just Black people, Black population as in entirety, right? So understanding that as a population, we stem from a very violent past. We stem from a very, pull her down syndrome past. We stem from a very, syndrome, because we are products of intergenerational hate. We are products of white monopoly capital culture, supremacist culture that was extremely anti-Black and continues to be anti-Black women more specifically, right? And it's no surprise that you find us internalizing violence onto each other and normalizing this violence, because the violence itself is way bigger than us. Understanding that we're not just us, we are a community, we are an identity, we are multiple identities, we are a system, unfortunately, that is not controlled by us, but by white people.
So without, I don't like to oversimplify subject matter that is actually very complex and layered. I think obviously just as a starting point to just get a basic understanding. I mean, you have touched on how we got to the point that we are layers upon layers upon layers of requiring of healing and understanding and just basic tolerance on a human level. I want to quickly touch on media and how media represents trans people. So, in the case of you, Tholang, you've recently on television, and a lot of times, like you say, everybody will think Caitlyn Jenner because that's the story that came out. That's our reference point. I mean, what do you feel your role is going to play with you sharing your story with the public in assisting in creating a more positive narrative?
People are going to be able to finally differentiate between a gay person and a transgender.
Yeah.
That's always been mystifying to them. And at telling my story, I get to tell them my hardships, things that I go through as a transgender woman, because an average person would point me from afar, be like, okay, she has it easy, she's a she and she wanted to be a she, that's easy. Being a she to me has not been easy because I come across guys that are attracted to a girl and I still have to come out to them. I went through so many things that women go through, like I got raped. It happens to, it's something that happens to everyone, a boy, a girl, and a transgender woman. It has to be taken seriously because I'm a I'm a person that this atrocity got to happen to. I get to shed light on the lives that transgender people live in order to get hormones, because it's very important for a transgender person to get hormones, and they're depriving us of hormones in public clinics, especially she, because she's from rural areas. I'm sure she comes across hardships trying to get hormones, right? Is it easy for you to get hormones?
No. Can I just allude to my leader? Like, exactly, you've touched a very important point in regard to like hormonal access, right? Because the healthcare system itself is quite problematic. Because also Relebogile had spoken about it, how is it important for us to decolonize a language around medicinal practices, right? I think absolutely it's extremely important because the medicinal practice itself or concept itself has always been extremely anti-Black and anti-Black women, right? Hence, we've always seen, medicinally speaking, trans women's bodies being the most objectified, but even Black women's bodies being the most hyper-sexualized, right? For me, like, accessing hormones is something that's personal and political because so many Black girls and so many Black disempowered, rural, poor trans girls back at home are always like texting me, or also give the hormones, and and are those people going to treat us with a form of respect? Are those people going to really respect our preferred gender pronoun, our preferred name, right? And because there's no space that is supposed to be really catering and representing of these bodies, especially in rural spaces, because I genuinely believe if you want content, our content givers, content providers are in the rurals, right? And understanding that we are here because of our people back at home. Or let me just say me, because I'm definitely here because of my people back at home. And understanding that when a group of Black trans girls cannot access hormones because a doctor or a nurse is extremely transphobic towards them, it's problematic. Because I am a survivor of a hate crime in 2017, whereby there was a nurse. So it's just like a story. It's a very violent story, and I think the fact that I was violated for seeking a healthcare assistance from a person that was positioned in a position of power to assist a community like me, right? And was never really given a mandate to like treat heterosexual people and do not treat trans people.
One thing
and how from that.
One thing that I want to stress on is the fact that I'm telling this story. It's going to make it easy for trans people out there, because have you noticed how hard it is for a transgender woman to get a job? You go there with your CV, your resume, it says you're male, and they look at you and they see a female. It's something that they're not accustomed to. So that makes it hard for trans women. Like with this show that I'm doing, it educates people about people like us, so it makes it easier. And you do not have to maybe explain yourself, because they would already know what you're saying, you're transgender. What is it that you really are? Am I making inside?
And I also don't want us to glaze over the fact that
absolutely
the both of you have experienced some form of hate crime. I don't want to glaze over it, and I hope we can have another opportunity or platform to address those specific issues.
Yes.
But that's the one thing I want to touch on. Recently, I was hearing a conversation, or I think I saw it on Twitter, where a person said, a trans person does not have to come out to you, you know, or a person who is gay doesn't have to come out to you. Now, in my mind, a big source of the hate crime is that thing, why osamplela. So now somebody's attracted to you, they are now approaching you. You have no obligation to tell them that this is who I am, this is what's happening with my body. Now they find out in a way, they're angry, they're offended. What are your thoughts on, because obviously violence, the hate, that is on them. But what are your thoughts on when and how should a trans person come out, so to speak? And should they? If you meet someone and you start dating, they have no idea until you are intimate, for example.
I personally believe in authenticity, and I personally believe in telling you what I am, because you're this person that approached me wanting to share a life with me, and it's going to be fair to you if I do not tell you what is it that's happening with me. I can still not tell you and have sex with you. You know that it's possible for a transgender woman to have sex with a man, and the man does not know. But I choose to be authentic.
Please explain how that is, because I need to understand. And I mean, I'm sure there are people who think that you are saying it's possible, right? And just to confirm, you have not yet, you've only done hormones. You haven't done a full transition, as in your genitalia is still there. How do you have sex and be as graphic as you'd like to be with a man? Well, you have what they would see as male genitalia, and they don't know how.
You wear this underwear, it's custom made Mokotla. I'm sure you know what Mokotla is, right?
I'm learning so much.
Mokotla is this underwear that is custom made. You do it yourself.
I'm learning okay. Mokotla, is it the tucking? We're going back to the tucking story.
The tucking. So the tucking, you have to see to it that you do not get an erection in the process. There is this thing that you buy, these ointment. These are ointments. Container Vicks. If I want to have sex with someone that does not know, and then apply. Because once you have once you are a woman and you have sex with a man, you automatically gain power. Because like you are overpowering him. The heat that's gonna come behind it's going to
okay, you guys have lost me. Give me a moment. Okay. Let's go to the part. Ore, this thing that you keep in Vicks, are you saying you are using it to suppress something in you physically?
To add on the heat.
So to add on the heat.
Yeah, so it disturbs him in the mind. And I get to have power. So that heat is going to overwhelm him. He's not going to touch it remix. And to my side, if I touch it remix, the real deal.
Okay, wait. Okay, so let's slow down. You want to, if I understand you correctly, this thing you're saying, it's, in my mind, if I were to make it scientific, it's almost like it messes with his hormones, that there's certain things he won't notice because he's in another frame of mind.
He's in another land, another world because of this heat that is...
So somebody might say, so you're drugging men so they don't know.
Island pussy, darling.
No, why can somebody not say you are drugging a man, for example?
I do not know if that would be a suitable word, because I've done that to men that I love and only got to confess after. And then my last relationship lasted because of doing that, really.
Okay, so now he can't tell. You say you've tugged now, you're wearing the underwear.
You're not really touching. With the underwear, you take it one side. And you see to it that your genitalia is this side.
Where's the penetration? Where does the penetration happen?
When I do that, when I do missionary, sweetie, I'm a girl, just as much of a girl as you are. And then with that thing that I apply, like it's a traditional thing.
Yes.
It messed up, like it messes him up. Yeah, and then when I touch it remix, bring it babe. So when I and yes. And then that's how he gets to come.
Okay.
In the free
sisters, there are so many questions that happen. I just needed to get an understanding of what you mean, because if rapakola, those are the things people want to know. How can a man say, I slept with that woman, but you didn't know they're trans? So what are your thoughts then on this particular part of the discussion of coming out? Should you have to tell a man or a woman that you are a trans woman?
I think politics of consent is important. I think you don't really owe it to anyone to be going around telling them that, hey, I'm a trans person. You don't see heterosexual people going around and saying, hey, I'm a cishet person. I think the same respect should be allocated to trans persons. Their love should be treated the same way as you treat your heterosexual love, right? It should come from me. It should come from me whether do I want to tell the person, because if I'll be going around telling the entire world that, listen, yeah, I'm a trans person, wow, what does that even mean, right? Because for me, then it means that, wow, Seoketsi, you're doing so much hard work that you can't even know where to draw the line with yourself, with your mental health, and you don't even know who to just establish as these are the most deserving people to know about my transness and its identity politics. Don't go around telling people your truth. You don't owe it to anyone. You owe it to people that are there for you. I am here for people who are here for me. If you're here for me and I really genuinely love you, and I feel like, my heart is actually really in relation with you, I'm going to sit you down and have a conversation with you, a very personal and a political conversation that speaks on my lived experience. I cannot be expected to be telling every...
So you disagree with what she's saying?
No, I beg to differ. With me, I feel like I'm proud of what I am. Yeah, and not everyone can be like this. So many people are closeted. So many people that are men are still married to women, and their kids running around, and they can't be transgender. They can't agree to being transgender. The fact that I'm here wearing a weave, the fact that I'm here in stilettos, just means a lot. I actually take out so many people out of the closet. So I'm proud, and I feel like it's necessary for me to go telling people that I'm a transgender, I'm a transgender, so they know the person that I live.
Absolutely. To know Tholang, I absolutely share similar sentiments with you, right? I'm speaking to politics of consent. Hence, I rested from the answer to say that, it's important to ask for consent. The same way you're going to be asking, or I expect you to ask me, hey Seoketsi, or hey, which pronoun do you expect, or which pronoun do you prefer for me to refer to you as? And I will politely tell you that it's she or they, right? I'm speaking to that element to say that as trans person, we also are deserving of, respect, dignity.
So if I understand the both of you correctly, because I almost feel like you're saying the same thing, is that you are saying it on your own terms.
We are saying
so
the
for
same
you
thing.
Personally, you don't need for an intimate space to happen to say you're out and you feel like you are comfortable. And for you, your messaging is simply that don't tell because you feel like you should, just because Tholang is busy.
And I've got my personal experiences with not telling. Like if you watch my show, I've lost a man that I really love, even though he came back, honey, because I'm this hot. Yeah, because of not telling him, it can do harm to you. It can harm you in a way, because a man would come to you looking at a girl, planning a future, being futuristic with the two of you, and then it turns out you're not what he expected you to be, and then he gets to be contempt towards you, and then you lose him, and also Murad.
So let me do this, because
but understanding. I think we really need to understand like the representation, right, Tholang. It's extremely important that as a community we understand that people must express themselves the best way they can, right? There's something we call self-preserve. There's the people that really just want to preserve. The people that there's something we also call stealth. A process where people just don't want to even have to come out, don't want to be clocked, don't want to be outed, because they know that comes with a form of violence, right? But there are people that just don't want to be clocked, right? Because it's not just because they want to be clocked as a trans person, but they just want to remain, unclocked, just for their sanity. For another person, treating it differently, another person would prefer and to say that I'm outly proud, I'm unapologetically Black, rural trans woman. I'm definitely that. I take up space every day. My body takes up space. How I look takes up space. But I think it's extremely important to know where to draw the line as a person, as a trans person, to say that my politics of enoughness, this is where it's going to be. enough. This is where we
So,
need to draw the
so
line.
let me do
Not
this,
everyone
ladies.
is deserving of
I mean, it would be an injustice to try and skirt over the number of issues that come with this discussion. I mean, there's the part of the consent, there's the mental health, there's the violence, there's the support systems. We haven't even touched on the concept of reproduction, wanting to be parents. So I'm going to propose that at some point we revisit the discussion again, because it is part of a much bigger discussion. There's so much more we can unpack. And I think this is just a good starting point, that at least if we're saying we're opening it up for questions to be asked, let's not let any question be uncomfortable. Let's not let questions that might be innocent not be answered because they feel offensive, you know. And for me, the main thing I'm trying to do with this platform is to ask those questions that are uncomfortable to ask, and hope that it's not just a safe space for myself to do so, but it's also a safe space for you to be able to come with your truth. So, final words from yourself, Seo Power, on the subject. What are your thoughts, just to wrap up, and what do you want South Africans and the world over to know?
I want to tell the little rural trans child trapped somewhere in Bugulipirima in the Northern Cape, in the Free State, in Eastern Cape, that it does get better, and that your mess always creates a message. It's your message that will eventually become who you are. And understanding that you're not going to be pleasing everyone. Your body is a revolutionary act. Understanding that your body is a political warfare. Understanding that personal is political, and definitely, you are beautiful, you are brave, you're powerful.
Thank you so much, Seo, for joining us in this conversation. I really appreciate your honesty, and I know that we will get an opportunity to talk further about something that obviously is difficult for you to speak about now, and I hope that this conversation can make those necessary changes in people's minds, even if they don't agree, but at least they can get the information and make an informed decision on what their views are. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I appreciate you, Tholang. You're absolutely beautiful. Take care of your heart. And black trans magic all the time.
I love you. Love you, baby.
Tholang, the time is never enough. This is such a deep, complex discussion. And today we've only discussed two people's journeys, which we didn't even complete. But before I ask you for a final word, do you want to be a mother one day? And do you feel that being a woman, you feel robbed of a maternal opportunity?
In a way, I would like to call myself stolid, because I never got to research enough before being in hormonal treatment. They were supposed to have taken out the sperm while I was not on hormones. Like I was supposed to freeze it. So that sperm. So I never knew about that until later.
So what does that mean? It means that the hormones killed
they killed the capacity of making a baby in a sperm. And I'm so disappointed in myself. But I'm so ready now for motherhood. I can always adopt. It's fine. I'm ready now for motherhood. I'm ready now for motherhood. And especially if it has to be a girl. Like, I want a baby girl so much.
I think I'm even learning, because I didn't know hormone treatment could kill the sperm cells. And I didn't even think to myself, actually, if you want the same DNA, that this is what you can do prior. And I guess it comes back to the whole discussion around the education and the knowledge. And I hope that we do get an opportunity to unpack this a little bit more. But I just love the fact that you live your truth so loudly and brightly. And I know there are individuals who feel like, why must it be so bold? But it's almost like, I feel like you are living for 100 other transgender girls who can't, if that makes sense. It must be loud, it must be bold. And at one point we'll reach an opportunity where it's so normalized that it's not going to be a big deal. It's just going to be like, okay, and keep it moving on. Final words for everybody that's watching.
Please see to it that you always live your truth. people are going to talk whether you're a president or a prisoner. So if you're going to live to please people, you're not going to make any progress. You're going to keep regressing, if anything. So if you're a transgender, please live it out loud. If you're a gay LGBTI, live it out loud, because at the end of the day, the people that are going to be gossiping about you, sweetie, aren't going to pay your bills.
Is there anything else for me to say to that? Not at all, Tholang. Thank you so much for joining us. I feel enriched by this conversation, and then I realized, wow, this discussion could be its own series on its own. But I hope we can revisit it. Keep doing the great work that you are doing. Please connect with the two ladies on social media. We'll make sure we put their details, ask the questions, and hopefully we are able to change someone's life. But thank you so much for joining us on Unpacked with myself, Relebogile Mabotja, signing out. Next week on Unpacked.
Because I'm an exotic dancer.
So you're a sex worker?
No. We strippers, our main focus is to sell a fantasy, not sex.
$10 million is on the table for sex with a woman.
You take it.
That's Unpacked with Relebogile Mabotja. New episodes weekdays at 5:30 p.m. on my YouTube page. Don't forget to subscribe. Television edited broadcast weekdays at 5 p.m. Open up with S3.